really want to thank the panelists here who are engaged in the full range of topics that we will discuss today. First, beginning with, again, all of them great friends, Catherine Taylor, the State Director of AARP, Peg Langhammer, Executive Director of Day One, Christina Contreras-Fox, Director of Policy for the Rhode Island Black Business Association, Nina Harrison, Policy Director of the Economic Progress Institute, Oscar Mejias, the CEO of the Rhode Island Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, Vanessa Volz, Executive Director of the Sojourner House, and joining us virtually, it's Dr. Derek Hamilton, Professor of Economics and Urban Policy of the New School. So thank you all for joining me. And I wanted to just mark that it's incredible that 1 year has passed. And throughout this year in Treasury, we've had a lot of success, whether it's our performance in our pension fund or the different programs that we manage servicing Rhode Islanders. I think that overall we had a good year, good expectation. We had a successful bond sale, and I want to highlight the many team members who are here and thank them for all their service, not only to the team but also to the state of Rhode Island. I do want to highlight some friends who are here supporting outside of all the advocacy groups, and that's my good friend, Secretary Greg Amore. Thank you for being here. Representatives Kochevan, Shawcross-Smith, Speakman, and Senators Burke and Mack. And I saw Jen Boylan. Where is she? She just walked in. Ah, there she is. Thank you. And Speakman, how are you? By the way, happy belated birthday. Yeah, happy belated birthday. But I wanted to also give you the opportunity to go online and see the 2023 annual report for Treasury and see all of our different benchmarks and performances of what we've done in the past year. I want to, again, can't thank the team because without them, this would not be possible. One of the specific areas that's important to Treasury, and I want to thank my predecessor, Seth Magaziner, for passing the law on financial literacy, is that we're really taking a bold look at how we can engage not only our urban cores, but of kids, our color, and those in underserved communities to really educate them on financial literacy, not only just to save, open up a savings bank account. We want them to learn how to buy their first home, how to invest in the stock market. And I want to thank Renika Reyes, who is leading this charge with many of our partners and members of a consortium who are here, to thank them for their, not only their work, but also their input. It's very valuable for this to be successful. Although I won't get into details or specifics, one of my biggest priorities is the Pension Advisory Working Group that was directed to us by the legislature. We will be on time submitting a report by March 1st that will highlight the impacts and the status of the 2011 reforms, but also the options that will be provided to the legislature to consider for not only the retirees, the actives, and prospective employees. I think that this is a good commission that's been very thorough, and I want to thank Robert Craven from my office, who's been spearheading this initiative and has been really good about maintaining an honest, transparent process. If you want to learn more and be informed, we have still 2 more meetings left, but everything that has been publicized or spoken about is online on our website, so please engage there. We'll move on to 3 areas of my legislative priorities that I think are crucial for us to move forward as a state. Again, the biggest theme for us in Treasury is investing in Rhode Islanders. How do we continue doing that? And these are 3 areas that I think will be exclusively helpful among the many other things that the legislature is considering to help move this agenda forward. The first one is secure choice. Secure choice, as we all know, has been pushed for many years. This is a great program to help secure retirement for many people in our communities who don't have access to a retirement benefit program. Secure choice, I believe, will allow us to help families retire honorably in our state, and more importantly, have enough funding so that they don't have to rely on state subsidy programs, which is another aspect of it too. So I want to thank the folks here who are participating in this discussion around secure choice. I will say that it's tough to be at the bottom of the list, and we're the fourth highest population in the country with folks not having access to a secure retirement program. And so it's important for us to highlight that if we want to look at the spectrum of youth to retirement, we need to help everyone out. And I think secure choice is one important aspect of that. So I wanted to sort of turn it over to Catherine and Christina and Oscar. I know Christina's not here yet, but Oscar, to sort of talk to us why savings is so important for Rhode Islanders. So I'd love to open it up and have a discussion there.
Yeah. Sure. Can you hear me without the microphone? Okay.
We could share.
We will. Thank you so much, Mr. Treasurer, and I so appreciate your strong advocacy for the Secure Choice Program. AARP's mission is to empower people to choose how we live as we age, and nothing is more important to that than having savings when you're retired. Because if you are dependent on public programs, then others are making the choices for you about where you live, what your health care is like, even what you eat, pretty much. And so the savings is paramount. We have 172,000 Rhode Islanders who do not have access to a way to save for retirement through their work. 172,000. And so, we know that people are 15 times more likely to save if they have a way to do it through work, and 20 times more likely to do so if the deduction is automatic. So we have to be able to give that opportunity to all Rhode Islanders. And especially, and my colleagues will talk about this, communities of color are disproportionately deprived of that access, and it's really very, very necessary.
Thank you. And I also want to highlight that, we did a tour of many businesses last year as we were advocating for the Secure Choice Program, and they were very clear about this being a benefit to the employees and how this would also make it very appealing in the hiring process to be able to say that there's an offering such a secure choice. So I know you're the CEO of the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. What does the business community say about secure choice?
Thank you. Yes, definitely this is an important project. For business owners, it's necessary to have options, and because it doesn't represent additional charge for them and no extra cost, I think that is important to give the option to the employee to be part of this program. Of course, we need to educate our community, we need to share more information, and this is part of the responsibility of organizations like us, where we participate and help to re-educate our community. But definitely to present that additional option to secure the financial retirement for the employees is another way to attract employees more in these so difficult times where the lack of worker is in the top of the line. So we, as an organization, we support the program. We will be participating in a responsible way in this program.
Yeah. And so to be very clear, if Secure Choice is passed this year, this program would be administered out of the Treasurer's office, and any employer who does not offer any retirement benefit currently would participate in this program and would allow any employee who employs over 5 employees access to this Secure Choice program, we would hire a third-party company to administer the funds for these folks and share the resources and information with the employee. But we also included in the language in the legislation that we put forward is that any employer with 5 or less can opt in. So this would impact daycare providers. Again, we want to cast a wide net and be able to support as many families as possible. But Christina, I'd love to give you the opportunity, because I know your organization is fully behind this Secure Choice, and We'd love to hear any of your comments regarding Secure Choice.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm excited to talk about this great bill, and I first want to say thank you to you, Treasurer, for introducing and being such a champion of this really important proposal. So the Rhode Island Black Business Association, our mission is to help realize an equitable and sustainable economy here in Rhode Island. So we help all sorts of business owners, but we do obviously represent a lot of BIPOC business owners. And this is a bill that is going to help majority of minority-owned businesses in Rhode Island, because most minority-owned businesses in Rhode Island are either sole proprietors or they're micro-enterprises, meaning they have 4 or less employees. And so you're making this really, really great competitive benefit available to them that they can offer to incoming employees that puts them in just as competitive a position to retain strong workers as the largest corporation. So that's huge, leveling the playing field. And the reason that the Rhode Island Black Business Association is so supportive of this is not just because we recognize that this is a bill that's going to help grow the economy, close the racial wealth gap by making sure there's wealth to pass on to the next generation, which right now I don't know if this has come up yet. I apologize so much for being late. Who among us has not gotten stuck behind a RIPTA bus and a school bus on Smith Street? But not only is this going to go very far in closing the racial wealth gap, which right now over half of all Black Rhode Islanders and over half of all Hispanic Rhode Islanders are in risk of having $0 for retirement savings, which is a statewide crisis and disaster really in the making. But this is also going to help small businesses, and we have been hearing overwhelmingly from our members that this is a bill they want to see passed. This is a bill they want to see Rhode be advocating for, because this is one that's going to directly benefit them, their business, their communities, and their own households and families. Mm-hmm. So it's just a win-win-win all the way around. I mean, this is workforce development, this is business development, but it's also making a huge impact on increasing wealth in our state for the communities that, since they started with the least, many with nothing, no matter what kind of growth has been seen, and statistically, there has been a lot of wealth growth, especially in communities of color, over the past 3 years, but since folks are starting with so little, since they started with nothing, we're not seeing much change in terms of overall household wealth, and closing that racial wealth gap. So these kinds of investments here that are long-term, sustainable, and are directly addressing those root causes of poverty and lack of wealth, which is poverty, we're very, very supportive of it. And there have been over a dozen states that have passed this so far, or maybe more than 10, So it's really benefited those states. So it's time for Rhode Island to pass this and to be a leader here and to really be a leader in business and be a leader in small business development by passing this legislation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you have any other?
I do.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. Yeah, a few things to contribute. Actually, the late-breaking news is, because more and more states are passing this all the time, we are now up to 18. And that was a whole slew of them, just passed it this year. Connecticut's first year of operation saw over 21,000 workers save over $11 million. So they're a good model for us. And I wanted to just echo what my colleague Oscar said, too, about how small business owners are really clamoring for this option. AARP did a survey of small business owners and leadership last year. I think we surveyed over 700 small businesses and found that 72% support legislation that would establish a privately managed, easy, and low-cost Rhode Island retirement savings option. 81% agree that Rhode Island lawmakers should support a state retirement savings program. And 76% agree that being able to offer a retirement savings program would help small businesses stay competitive. So it's really something that's important for our small business community, not just for the workers there. And finally, I wanted to share, too, the fiscal impact to the state, right? This is no fiscal impact in terms of standing up the program, But the Pew Charitable Trusts have done a study of Rhode Island and have estimated that between now and 2040, if there is no way for people to save, that's going to be a $460 million hit on the state in terms of our social service programs. So really, really important to help people. Every possible way you look at it, it's really important to empower all Rhode Islanders to be able to save through their work and create that wealth.
Great data points. And I think the other piece to this that's very attractive, it's portable, right? If you leave one employee and you move on to the next one, you can continue contributing to this program, which is important for the long term, right? So I want to thank Oscar, Christina, and ARP for allowing us to have this dialogue around, sorry, Catherine, I keep forgetting your name. Having this discussion around secure choice. I think that we're getting more support, more folks that want to see this move forward, and I think that I hope this will be the year that we can secure the choice of secure choice. So I want to thank them again for participating, and I want to now move on to another priority of mine for 2024 through this legislative package, and is the Crime Victims Compensation Program. It's a program that unfortunately serves people during very difficult times. Anyone that's been a victim of crime knows that the last thing that's top of mind is financial burden, and this fund has been able to help a lot of victims. Most recently, our executive director of this program, Manuela Raposo, has reached out to the family of the victim in Pawtucket who just passed away over the weekend. And so this is a program that has helped a lot of families, and some of the adjustments that we want to make to the Crime Victims Program is making it much more accessible, so breaking down any barriers for any victim to be able to participate in this program. And one of those is sexual assault. Right now, in order to apply to this program, you would need a police report. We're asking to expand this so that medical providers or medical examiners can also be part of this process. Security in homes is important. We want to give access up to $1,000 for anyone who's been a victim of a crime and their home. And, although we have relocation costs, but, housing is getting expensive. And if a family owns a home, they want to stay in their home, we'll give them $1,000 to upgrade their security cameras, change the locks, provide some security there. Hit and run is another aspect of some of our legislative changes. Unfortunately, hit and run victims do not qualify for the program. So if you're a victim of this situation and have experienced seriously bodily injuries, you can participate in the Crime Victims Program. And we all know that this program has serviced a lot of people in the past, and we continue to service a lot of people, and we hope to help everyone that's experiencing a hardship due to being a victim of a crime. And so we're asking the legislature to give us the ability to add $1 charge to any traffic violation so that we can continue growing this fund. But also an important fact is that for every dollar that the state contributes, 75% is matched by the state. And so we have some good advocates here around this table, starting with Peg and Vanessa. And I want to say that they've been very helpful in shaping a lot of this conversation. And so I'd love to open it up to them to be able to express their support around these changes, but also seeing how this would impact the victims of crime. So I'll give it to Vanessa or Peg.
Well, thank you, Treasurer. We're so happy to be here. We've been working with you for a year on some of this, and I'm delighted that it has such a community response and that you've engaged so many providers and partners in the community, and I think that's the strength of this package. I'm particularly happy about the fact that you've broken up. Last year it was presented as a package. Thank you. And I think this year it's going in as separate pieces, which is great. because I think there's a better chance of it passing and not being so lumped together. So we're happy about that, particularly with the compensation for victims of sexual assault and without having to report to the police. And that's been such an obstacle for years, as you know, when we've been trying to get this passed for a long time. We think this is the year. We think it'll happen this time. And, 70% of sexual assault victims don't report to the police. So being able to use proof of a sexual assault exam, medical exam, will just be tremendous and just provide so much needed support, much needed. As will 1,000, and I know you'll probably address that, Vanessa, in terms of, having $1,000 for security and providing some kind of, alarms, whatever is needed, that will go toward prevention and just a sense of safety and so many things that victims so need. And so we're really excited about that. There's so many reasons victims don't report, and the fear, all kinds of things. And I think having this, we do provide at day one. We provide support right now for survivors to get victim compensation fund, for counseling, for any number of things. But this is one area that's been such a huge obstacle. So we're pretty excited, and thank you for your leadership on this. And you have a great team. We work together with Rob all the time, and we're ready to testify. We're ready to move forward with this. We did it last year.
I know.
We sat in that hearing room for a very long time.
Yeah, exactly.
But this year it'll be victory. It always takes more than 1 year to get something done.
I agree. Appreciate the partnership.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Treasurer, and your staff for lifting up this issue and for your advocacy on this. My name is Vanessa Volz. I'm the director of Sojourner House. We are a victim services agency that provides support to victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, and human trafficking. Over the last few years, we have developed specialized expertise in providing supportive housing to all survivors of abuse. We currently own or lease over 150 apartments throughout the state of Rhode Island that we provide as supportive housing. And probably most of you in this room understand how critical the need for affordable housing is across the state for all populations. It's especially acute for victims and survivors. It's a reason why victims often do not leave abusive situations. It's an issue that clients come to us seeking immediate support and long-term support. So this bill, by expanding and trying to find alternative ways to fund it to increase the access to other people, will benefit more Rhode Islanders who have experienced abuse. And I also think it's just worth pointing out, too, when we're talking about sexual assault survivors, it's not just the victim of sexual assault who is impacted by this crime. Our entire community is affected by sexual assault. Coworkers, family members, friends. And so having more access to these funds help not just the victim, but the entire unit that surrounds the victim, the entire family unit, support network, be able to move forward to rebuild a life that has been impacted by an incident. So this really goes a long way. It's a step. There's still a lot of work to do. We envision a world as Sojourner House where we don't have domestic violence or sexual assault, but certainly in the interim where we're dealing with the aftermath, this is a step in the right direction.
Yeah, and I think you're right. We're taking small steps with these changes, but what do you think are still the remaining obstacles for our victims? I think it's important to, address some of the solutions that we put forward today, but keep in the back of our mind that we still have a lot of obstacles that we need to address in the future and help our victims feel more supported and inclusive. So I'll open up.
I think, we start with child sexual abuse, and we know that 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys will be sexually abused by the time they're 18. And that hasn't changed in years. We know that there's so many services needed for these kids. It's very difficult to have a case like that go forward through the criminal justice system. So we work at day one in partnership with all of the providers who work with that child to try to streamline the system and have it much smoother for them to go forward and not have to tell their story 5 or 6 times, but one time. So we have a partnership with police, with DCYF, AG's office, et cetera, around the state. And I think this crime, I think sexual abuse, it needs a partnership with adults and children, with everyone. It's a community problem. And until we embrace it, and as Vanessa said, it does affect everyone. It's not just the victim. It's the entire community. We all know someone. Even if we don't think we do, we know people who have been sexually abused. And I think one of the issues is still the silence that surrounds it. It's still the fear of coming forward, the fear of not being believed, the fear of being judged, of being blamed. So all of those issues which have been around, Day One just celebrated its 50th anniversary, and those issues were huge back then, and they still are. Mm-hmm. So, but we're talking about it. We're talking about it today. We have so many people involved and committed to moving it forward, you and your leadership, and so it's exciting for us, I think, to be at the table with everyone.
Thank you.
And just to add to that, I mean, I think Peg's right to talk about the silence that victims have encountered throughout decades of trying to report abuse. And I would just add to that the complacency of our society. We know that sexual assault and domestic violence are public health epidemics. And we often shy away from that reality. We often elect public officials who have engaged in that kind of behavior, and we turn an eye to that. And we really have a responsibility as a society. And I think, just to loop back to this legislation, I think this legislation and the existence of the current victim compensation program really highlights the importance of our society to support victims. Victims should not be isolated. It is not their fault. They are not to blame, and we, as a society, we need to step up to support victims when this happens. And there's a lot of complacency, and until we get to a point where, as a society, we say we're not going to tolerate this kind of behavior anymore, we're not there yet, but until we get there, we have to build these mechanisms to support survivors.
Yeah, and this is not a lot of people know that this program runs out of Treasury, and I think that the perspective that I bring is, being a former mayor where, I saw this very up and close where, it was very difficult to get victims to come forward. And so I appreciate you, Vanessa and Peg, for all your advocacy and the partnership with my office. I hope this is the year that we can celebrate some legislative victories. So I'd love to open it up for any questions of Peg or any of the previous speakers from the media or anyone in the public, if you want, or we could save them to the end. So we'll now segue to another exciting legislative priority of mine, which is baby bonds. And this is a program that's starting to really pick up among other states, Connecticut being the leader. And we've seen so far the great success that they've had in just a short 2 years of enrolling families. And what this would do is that this program would offer $3,000 to any child that's born into or who qualifies for the Medicaid or Right Care program. And we believe that there's about 4,600-ish children that are born in Rhode Island. And so this would allow them to each of them get one allocation of $3,000 that then the state would invest for them. And when they turn 18, hopefully this fund has grown to about $12,000 to $15,000 so that the family or the child can invest it in buying a home, investing in college, in a business, or a vehicle. This would all have to be purchased in Rhode Island, so we're hoping that the $13.9 million that would cost to initially start this program would have a little bit of over $50 million of economic output by the time that this cohort graduates or redeems this money. And so this would, I think, would be good for small business, for our local economies. I think it's good for closing the wage equity gap that exists in our state. And more importantly, it's another way of us investing in Rhode Islanders. So I'd love to open it up to Dr. Hamilton, who's the brainchild around this program, and Nina to be able to speak about the importance of baby bonds.
Thank you, Treasurer. And I'm sorry I'm not there in person. My other day job, I have to teach this evening. But Baby Bonds is a program that can facilitate all of us to have access to something as crucial as wealth. We think about wealth as an outcome, but its essence is what it can do for you, the financial agency that it provides. Baby bonds would serve as an instrument that facilitate children that are born without affluence to be able to purchase an asset generating entity like a home, like an education without debt, and like some seed capital to get into purchasing a business. Basically, baby bonds not only will benefit the individuals, but as the treasurer mentioned, it's a moral, just way of stimulus and investment in Rhode Island. It benefits those that are at the lower end of the spectrum, but well beyond them, it promotes economic activity. It develops neighborhoods. It has automatic stabilizing aspects. If we think about children that are born more recently, millennials, they were born into a Great Recession, a pandemic recession. Well, no fault of their own, they're facing economic challenges that other generations did not face. Indeed, they have the lower home ownership rates compared to every other generation dating as far back as the greatest generation that came out of the Great Depression. So the state would build automatic stabilizers across generation, across neighborhoods, and would also redress the racial wealth gap. We know that there is an overrepresentation of communities of color at the lower end of the economic distribution. So by seeding the accounts in a progressive way, you offer them access to build wealth in a way that generationally, frankly, our nation has not afforded certain groups and individuals.
Thank you so much for that, Doctor. And I wanted to ask Nina what you think the impact on the ground level would be if we were able to pass baby bonds in our state.
Yeah, I think that, the way to think of it is as an investment, not only an investment in people, which is our treasured resource, but an investment in communities that otherwise might not have resources from the state being directed towards them. I mean, if we juxtapose baby bonds with other forms of economic development, where we often set up tax incentives for those that have resources to be able to come in and develop a neighborhood, this is a more direct, parsimonious way to do so, and also uplifts people in a way that allows them to take part in a dynamic way.
Thank you. And about the kind of impact this could have in communities, I know that in Rhode Island, only 34% of Black Rhode Islanders own a home, compared to 40% of Black Americans nationally, and compared to 62% is the overall rate of home ownership in Rhode Island. So specifically, what this policy could do is really decrease that disparity in home ownership from the Black community, which, as Dr. Hamilton mentioned, does have a lot of history in this country in terms of policies that have historically excluded Black Americans from pathways to home ownership. And so I really applaud Treasurer Diossa for proposing policies that are intentional about remediating some of that past harm from the exclusionary policies of the past and provide those pathways to home ownership, which has traditionally been one of the best ways to build wealth for the average American who may not be savvy enough to invest in stocks and bonds, but knows that a house can provide generational wealth for their family. And especially in my generation, as that has become harder to obtain, I think we need policies like this that provide alternate routes to that same traditional wealth attainment. And in Rhode Island, that statistic is similar for Latino families as well. So although nationally Latino families tend to own homes at higher rates than Black Americans, here in Rhode Island, there are similarly behind the general population and would also benefit from this program because children born on Medicaid are disproportionately Black and Latino. So this is a really targeted program that would provide opportunities that poor children just don't have at this time in Rhode Island. And I love that they could have that in 18 years.
Doctor, what are some of the things that you're seeing in Connecticut that you would highlight thus far?
You know, another aspect of baby bonds that I hadn't considered when originally conceiving it is it changes the relationship between the recipients and the states. Often Black and Latino households are used to punitive relationships with the states, whether it's fines, fees, even incarceration. Imagine providing an investment for something as dear to a person as their child. Imagine what that does, not just for their economic well-being, but even their civic participation. I think we have an opportunity to engage with families from cradle all the way through adulthood. Imagine if there are other programs that you want to bridge with baby bonds. If you start with this foundation, you build trust between the state and people. I know you led this program off talking about retirement with another excellent program, but we do need to think about economic security from cradle through grave. And we don't have much in this country for young adults when they're just building their nest egg, when they're forming their families, when they're trying to have economic security. And again, income is critical, education is critical, but one dimension of security that we have not focused a lot on in recent time in a more generalized way is wealth. And this is an example of what we can do.
Well, go ahead. Sorry.
I did just want to add that, as you mentioned, or I think you both mentioned, how much of this money would be reinvested in the Rhode Island economy. And I think giving people in these impacted communities the actual cash to invest in a business in their community is also going to see the kind of uplifting of some communities where they have disproportionately high numbers of families on Medicaid. And so you're giving money to the people living in the communities who are best positioned to see the need and the opportunity in which things could really flourish from investment. So I think we can also see entire communities lifted to new heights as a result of this legislation.
Yeah, I think it's exactly what you, Nina, and Doctor have mentioned. This is a really good program for seeding of the future. Yes, we're not going to see the benefits this year, 3 years, 5 years out. This is 18 years out. But just know that for any child who's born and qualifies for Medicaid and live in that poverty line, having the ability to have $15,000 to do whatever choice that they want that we highlighted, I think it's important. And we also would like to create some wraparound services so that we can start educating the kid as they start approaching that 18-year mark so that they can better invest their money, they know what to do with it. And also, I think it's important for our community to be able to have our children or our kids or our 18-year-olds making good decisions for the state. So I want to thank you, Dr. and Nina, for your contributions, and really thank everyone here and my team for helping me put together this robust agenda, and more importantly, for the insight of our partners and our advocates, because I don't have every answer or every solution or know everything, and the input of all these advocacy groups has helped me get to this point where I feel very strongly about my priorities for 2024. So thank you to the panelists. If there's anyone that has any questions or thoughts.